Video.
Make sure you get my good side.
Computers in the feed.
It's Thursday, October 17th, 2013. I'm Jimmy Principe.
I'm Sydney Foster.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 46. Your last call for tech news of the week. Tonight, Jimmy is changing his name to Android Fuel Man. Sydney doesn't care about earnings, but does care about Star Wars. And I am disappointed by Ubisoft and degrading dinosaur DNA. But we start tonight with that disappointment out of Ubisoft and that success out of Congress.
For once.
I mean just the disappointment out of Ubisoft. My Game of the Year homework just got a lot easier. Ubisoft has pushed their much-anticipated cross-platform titles, the open-world action game Watch Dogs, and the arcade driving game The Crew. Watch Dogs especially was one of the key titles for the next-generation consoles. Ubisoft says this is to give them more time for fine-tuning that's really important, and that Watch Dogs could end up being bigger than Assassin's Creed. In the wake of this news, their stock dropped 32%, and they predicted an operating loss of between 40 and 70 million euros. My real big question here, though, is what impact do y'all see this having on the next-gen consoles?
It's going to seriously hamper pre-holiday sales for this year because The Crew is supposed to be one of the best driving games. In a number of things I've read on the next gen, The Crew was the specific driving game listed as the best one for the next gen. Not to mention Watch Dogs, which I know you were excited for, Trey, and I was excited for. And it was supposed to come out November
it was supposed to come in
22nd?
Day and date with... It was a launch title for the PS4.
And so it should have been ready, and it's one of the reasons why I was excited about the PS4. And so it not being available until first quarter 2014 is just killer.
I mean, Danny, we bring this show up a lot. You guys should watch The Point with Danny O'Dwyer over on GameSpot.
We'll drop the link into the show notes.
He talks about it. He talked about this week and basically saying, hey, maybe wait. Maybe you don't need a PS4 at launch. Because let's talk about what the PS4 has at launch now. It's a bunch of cross-platform stuff
Nothing.
that isn't going to be any better on next-gen, unlike Watch Dogs was supposed to be really good on next-gen. They've got Knack, they've got Drive Club, they've got Killzone. Now, there's another rumor swirling that Drive Club may also be pushed to next year, and that's first-party Sony. So that would really leave Sony with Knack and Drive Club.
Do we have any concept of why? Like... it seems like we
can guess.
I have a theory
across more than one company saying that we're pushing our titles
because no one's ever made polygon counts like this before. It's just the amount of time these things take to develop. They've never tried to do it on this scale.
It's
also,
too many polygons, Captain.
Think about like BioShock Infinite, for example, which really pushed. I know playing it on the PC, you got a lot higher resolution than you did playing it on the current generation consoles. And I mean, that was a $200 million game.
GTA 5 took 5 years and cost $250 million.
Yeah, BioShock Infinite took, 4 years?
4 years. And they haven't had finalized hardware specs on these systems for 4 years. Also, there was a report that came out this week that Ubisoft has 900 people working on AC4. 900 people.
Wait. How many people does Ubisoft have?
Who knows? It's every studio. It's pretty much all of their studios are working on it. And so the sense I get reading these two announcements is at some point they realized Watch Dogs wasn't going to get done, or Watch Dogs or AC4 weren't going to get done. AC4 can't miss. AC4 cannot miss, especially after the somewhat disappointing sales of AC3. So they diverted resources.
So they have either 6.927 people or 6,927 people.
Yeah, but not all of those are coders.
Right. But that's total. So of their total I mean,
It's
that's
still a pretty significant percentage.
I'm not
To be
not
working
that I'm
on
good at
one
math.
game
Yeah.
in this huge company, yeah.
More than 10% of their entire company is working on Assassin's Creed,
Yeah, I mean closer to 20%.
including admin and all the other random crap.
So I mean, I think they just diverted resources, and no one's tried to build a next gen open world game before, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're talking about a world bigger than AC4, and AC4 is supposed to have the biggest world yet in the Assassin's Creed series. So,
Well, and AC3 had a huge world.
yep, and it had at that point was the biggest world they'd ever done. So, I mean, I get it, right? But if it's true that Drive Club isn't coming out at launch, and we know Watch Dogs isn't, I'm canceling my PS4 pre-order.
I'm not.
Well, we need one of them for coverage.
Well, I'm going to play Killzone.
And you're going to play Killzone, and I'm not going to play Killzone because it'll make me vomit. Again, I can't play first-person shooters.
Really appreciate you not vomiting.
Right. So, and I'll probably buy Knack for us to play on your system as part of the day one live stream, but I'm not actually going to play Knack to completion.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be up for Game of the Year.
A lack of Watch Dogs is really going to limit the amount of gameplay I'm going to do on my PS4 because I have a PS3, right? And I'm going to have Assassin's Creed for the PS3, and I'm going to have I have FIFA. I'm going to have Beyond Two Souls. I'm going to have all these games that are going to be ported over to the PS4 already on the PS3. So once I beat Killzone, I'm really not sure how much gameplay I'm going to have on the PS4 between launch and Watch Dogs.
There's going to be some downloadable exclusives like The Witness, which is from the folks that made like Mist and Riven. So there's that, and that should be a really good game. I'm actually looking forward to it.
But as far as AAA titles,
I mean,
we
no,
don't really have anything.
I mean, we have a bunch of cool stuff coming in the beginning of the year. We have Infamous Seven Son, 1886, The Order 1886, now Watch Dogs, but I'll play that on my Xbox One. In terms of PS4 exclusives, the big games at that point will be Infamous Second Son and The Order, and Drive Club, assuming Drive Club's postponed, and the evidence looks pretty good. It stopped showing up at press events. They're not announcing any news on it. It's supposed to launch in less than a month.
So Trey, you're not going to quit the Xbox One?
No, and I'm actually going to I'm working on a feature for the site. I'm just waiting on confirmation that Drive Club is in fact canceled, or not canceled, is postponed. And if we get confirmation that, I'm going to post it. That's basically my journey from wanting to quit the Xbox One to the Xbox One currently the only system I'm pre-ordered for. And it all has to do with Sony's failure of a launch lineup. Xbox One has enough variety of exclusives in their launch lineup to actually be able to sustain my interest. I'm interested in Rise Son of Rome, unlike the rest of the gaming press, because I just want to see what it's going to do with the hardware. I'm almost less interested in the gameplay, just seeing that as an Xbox One tech demo. I'm extremely interested in Forza 5, and there are other games in there for other people that aren't me. They have done a much better job of exclusives, even though Sony has talked about how we built this system with developers in mind. Well, okay, who cares? If you can't ship a damn game, it doesn't matter. You may have built that system with developers in mind, but if you're not pushing developers to put the stuff out on time, it does not matter.
It's just echoes of the Wii U launch.
But I think that because Watch Dogs is cross-platform.
Yeah.
I think that Watch Dogs will equally hurt both the Xbox One and the PS4. Now, granted, it significantly decreases the percentage of the PS4 because there's less games launching.
But that's my point. That's my point. Sony just messed up their launch lineup. I'm sorry. If your day one lineup that I'm excited about at all is Killzone, Knack, and Drive Club, even if Drive Club ships, that's still pretty weak.
No, it's weak, and I'll agree with that. But I think that the Ubisoft's, going back to this Watch Dogs, I think that the biggest thing is that it's going to hurt the next gen for this holiday season, which is what they were targeting.
Right.
And so if we have lukewarm sales this holiday season and they can't rebound we might have another like both these consoles might be doomed like the Wii U. Now that's probably too early to say.
I think that's way too
But
early
it
to say.
it opens the door for the Steam box to actually make a difference in the first quarter of 2014.
It depends. It really depends. With the Steam box, it all depends on that price point.
Yeah,
if it's actually going to be $600, which sure they're probably worth that. I'm not arguing that, but
leaves
that's
the door open. That's what I'm saying. That it gives Steam an opportunity to slide the Steam box in and do something to win people that haven't already bought the next gen.
maybe. I don't know. To me, it's about price, and also it's about what games are actually going to be on that thing. Because right now the whole Steam library is not available on Linux.
Yep.
And that's going to be the requirement to run on the Steam box. I mean, there's going to be some of that streaming stuff, but that's kludgy. And yeah, Sony has that too, and that's still not an answer. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thanks.
So I don't know. Speaking of another company likely to disappoint us in the very near future, we have a flurry of Apple news. Apple may be one of the most valuable companies in the world, but they were also one of our biggest sources of news this week. And some of it is actual news. Let's start with the good.
Instead of rampant speculation.
Good news! Apple is holding an event on October 22nd, like we said last week.
Sandero?
The tagline is, "We have a lot more to cover." With a color, with a
cover.
Yeah, new smart cover with colorful Apple leaves. So my bet is new iPads with colors and smart covers. Good news! Apple has a new senior VP of retail, Angela Harris. Now, the former CEO of Burberry, who is credited turning that company and that brand around. Bad news! According to sources inside Hon Hai and Pegatron, the major iPhone manufacturers, speaking to Reuters, Apple has cut iPhone 5C production between 20 and 33%, depending on the plant, while increasing production of the iPhone 5S. So, let's take these stories one at a time. We talked last week about the announcement, but what are y'all expecting out of next week? What are your predictions?
After you, Sydney.
Yeah, well, I guess iPads, right? Because what else could it be?
Well, I mean, certainly it's the time of year when they launch new iPads.
It's iPad season. I don't know if there's any significance to the leaves. Probably, I mean.
Well, they're in
not.
They're in different colors, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking we're just going to see multicolored back
do you
iPads.
think
Gonna change the
colorful
form factor.
iPads, or do you think the colors would just be related to the covers?
No, I think they'll have actual colorful, because they did that with the
That was
Nanos.
the Steve Jobs solution.
Yeah.
You want colors? Here's a cover.
Yeah, no, because they did that with the Nano and they did that with the iPod
It just
Touch.
seems like such a pain, though. I don't know. An iPad is a significantly larger device. I feel like I don't know. I don't know how much extra effort it takes to make multiple colors, but
I don't
it
know.
seems
Johnny
silly.
Ives tortured over it for weeks, I'm sure. So I mean, what else? So we've got iPads.
Maybe they're we're assuming different new processors to make
Yeah.
them lighter, thinner. Maybe that's the
Yeah,
that's the symbolism behind the leaves: lighter, thinner.
I mean,
all
they'll
that.
get the big
Okay.
iPad will get the A7 chip.
No, I think even the little iPad's going to get the A7 just
Last
because
year they didn't.
you say that, but I think that they're going to do it just so that they have all of their newest products
On
running
64-bit.
running on
Retina
64-bit.
display, yes
I
or
don't
no?
think so.
What do we think?
I think Retina display. Yeah, we haven't heard any
the Mini.
rumor that wasn't Retina display for a
Yeah,
while
that's
for the Mini.
that's. It sounded for a while there that it was not going to be Retina, but now it's sounding like it's going to be Retina. So I'm going to go with 50-50 on that. They're actually going to show us the Mac Pro.
Yeah, and with the release date.
We'll get a quick overview of iPods. This might be the year they kill the
Yeah, it seems
like a
the
lot.
classic,
Which
and
we
they
say every
add 128 gig. Well, if they add 128 gig iPod Touch, they'll kill the classic.
and just not announce it.
They won't announce that they're killing it. They've never announced that they're killing it. They just never announced a new one either. We're still on the 7th generation, which came out like 5 years ago,
Something
6
like
years
that.
ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
The real question is, what are they going to call the new iPad?
The new iPad.
It's just me, the new iPad. They're just doing it with gens now.
What about the new iPad?
The
What are you gonna
iPad,
call that one?
the iPad
The
4th
way
gen.
the Dodo.
The
It'll
old,
probably-
the new iPad. The new iPad.
It's revolutionary.
the newer
It is.
iPad. The
Well, no, they
newest
already
iPad.
been through this because they introduced the new iPad with the 3rd gen, and then they released the 4th gen like 6 months later, and then just called it the new iPad.
Which
It's-
really made a lot of people angry.
I like Jeff Bakalar. So we'll also probably see the finished version of OS X Mavericks, which is way
it's
late.
0.9.
Way
it was supposed
late.
to be showed off probably last month.
I mean, they ship those things in midsummer. Past few have all Lion, Mountain Lion. Let's see, Lion and
It's
Mountain
curious that they're so late.
and Mountain Lion both shipped midsummer. Snow Leopard shipped early fall. I mean, this is late.
Well, Snow Leopard was late. So, Trey, do you think that they're going to do Retina MacBook Airs? That was one of the rumors.
No, we've already had a MacBook Air refresh for the year.
No, we haven't.
Well, they did. They put in the Haswell. They put in the Haswell chips.
That's not really a refresh. That's
That's
just
as much of a refresh as they ever
hey,
do.
look, we put a new processor in it. It's the new processor that Intel's making.
Yeah, but those didn't come out all that long ago. I mean, no, I
6
don't.
months.
No, not
I
even.
think that they could offer a screen upgrade to it. I think that they could do it.
Maybe
20%. I'll go with 20%.
It's going to be a very busy event.
Yeah, it was last year too. I mean, they rolled
Yeah.
out new iMacs, the iPad Mini, a 4th gen iPad, the
Are we
new
gonna see a
Touch, and the
smartwatch?
new Nano. See, that's the big thing, right? Are we going to see a new product? Yes or no?
Apple TV.
It's either going to be the Apple TV or
I'm
the Watch.
so tired. I hope
I hope it's not Apple
they
TV.
either need to come out with an Apple TV or they need to just say we will never make an Apple TV. Stop talking about
I don't
it because
think
I am so tired of talking about the legendary Apple TV.
I don't think it'll be the Apple TV. I mean,
Evil tech unicorn.
I think it's going to be the smartwatch, and the smartwatch will have colors if it's going to be a new product at all.
Cindy, are you getting gored by the Apple
I'm tired
TV
of it.
tech unicorn?
I don't know. I refuse to talk about it anymore until it's real.
So, I mean, let's kind of switch topics within the same thing. So, Apple collected another fashion CEO. They picked up the CEO of Yves Saint Laurent. They've picked up a senior VP from Levi. And now they've picked up, the CEO of Burberry, whose last name I still can't pronounce. What is there something significant about this? Or is this just Apple found someone who knows retail to run retail?
Well, people who know retail, but also people who know Apple's target market.
Yeah.
Because the target market for Apple is, somewhat different from the target market for the average tech company.
And like Target, which is what the last
Which is
guy
where the last guy literally came from, Target.
Right. So, your average Apple user is probably, stereotypically more fashion conscious, more aware of all these other brands. And so possibly the CEOs from those brands have more experience with marketing to creating products for the people that Apple is aiming for.
I'd make a distinction there. It's not the typical Apple user. It's the Apple fanboy. And that's really the market I think that they're trying to target. Because at this point, the Apple user has become everybody. It's
Sure.
no longer
But
a niche market like it once was.
It's not a niche market, but it's still...
It's small market
It's-
share when it comes to PCs. But
But it's a brand that is very protected, right? It may be the phone that everyone has, but it also has a lot of cachet with it.
No,
And
that's
how
true.
and how you maintain that cachet is partly through Johnny Ive, and apparently partly through hiring fashion folks. What's interesting here is going back to the smartwatch rumors, right? So you have the CEO of Yves Saint Laurent, who we thought was going to move into the retail position, but didn't. Instead, he's running a special products division. And then you bring in another fashion CEO. I wonder if this is worth connecting the dots. That one of the things they need a fashion CEO because they're working on a fashion product.
well, and maybe they need the spin. That might be the problem, that they have the Johnny Ive design and they
Sure.
need the spin.
Yeah, or maybe it is just folks to consult with Johnny because Johnny's never done wearable tech.
So what we really should be predicting is plaid iPads.
Yeah,
Oh,
with the
yes.
Burberry, everything will just have the
Yeah.
Burberry pattern, which would actually
Or
be a
possibly an eye scarf.
look. Think of an iPhone 5C with the Burberry pattern as the back. Yeah. Speaking of the
I still
iPhone
think these
5C,
Still don't want it.
did Apple mess up with the 5C? I mean, they're having to cut shipments and bump shipments on the 5S.
I think that they miscalculated on the 5C. I think that they thought that by introducing a new product, the quotes there,
Slightly new.
a reskinned iPhone 5, that they'd be able to drive.
Meet the new iPhone and the new iPhone.
They thought that people would say, "Oh, look, a new iPhone," and they'd, gravitate towards that. I think that they underestimated how much people go, "Well, but that's the cheap one," and I don't want the cheap one, at least not right now.
Right, and we're still, I feel like, at the point, as far as sales at this point, with people who are buying the phone want the actual new phone at this point.
Well, and the other thing is, once we get past Christmas, people will have less disposable income, and so they'll go after the 5C because they'll be feeling, I don't have as much money. Oh, I can get an iPhone for cheaper. It may also be that, whereas in the past, so think about when you had the 4S was the new phone and the 4 was the old phone.
Yeah.
You looked at it, and if someone bought the 4, at $100, it was impossible to tell that it was different from the 4S.
That's true.
If someone bought a 5, when the 5 was out and someone bought a 4S, it was impossible to tell that person hadn't just bought it when it was $200. The 5C is the only phone that they never sold for $200.
That's true.
And so it's a phone that they've specifically targeted as a budget device. And so I think that that's backfiring on them in a way.
Well, I wonder if it's backfiring. I don't know.
In the short term. In the short term, it's backfiring.
I don't think we can really talk about how much of a success or a failure the 5C is until after Christmas, because I think that it's the phone of Christmas. It's cheap enough that it, and it is you can get it in red and green. I
get the product red if you're going to do it red.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, talk to me after the holiday, because until then, I don't think we can really rule it out, because it was not. I didn't think it was ever really going to have a big first couple weeks, because it's not aimed at the early adopters. The early adopters already have a 5. And we'll go to the 5S. Go ahead.
I still think it's a smart move.
Yeah.
I mean, they made a cheaper product that's cheaper for them to manufacture, and it's still an iPhone.
Yep, and it's not like it isn't selling. It's not like they obliterated the product.
It's not like it pulled a Microsoft Kin.
Right, and just eliminated after 2 weeks on the market. No, I mean, they're having to scale back production.
Sold like 1,000 of them or something.
And yet they're ramping up. I think we're kind of bearing the lead a little bit. They're ramping up iPhone 5S production, which makes them more money.
Which is good.
So, I don't know, it's not all bad. But someone who isn't disappointing at all is Intel, who may be rolling in the dough.
Yes, believe it or not, it's earnings time again. Yay.
My favorite part of the year.
I love talking about money. So today we are reporting some thrilling earnings stats from the inside, the Intel inside, that is.
See what you did there.
Thank you. So the processor maker beat analysts' odds during the third quarter of this year, with their revenue coming in at $13.48 billion, which is up 5% over last quarter. And the surge in growth obviously is due primarily to the fancy schmancy Haswell chips, which have been making appearances in laptops and in convertible 2-in-1 devices. CEO Brian Krzanich has predicted during the earnings call that both Haswell and Bay Trail chips will be in high demand this holiday season, as Intel's various customers are working to produce affordable tablets and laptops and hybrid devices for the holidays. But things are not all kittens and rainbows for the folks at Intel. So in the ever-confusing world that is the stock market and Wall Street, after this really fancy, reporting of exceeding expectations, Intel's share prices dropped. Because apparently analysts predicted that the fourth quarter won't be so shiny, and apparently a bad prediction of the future is more important than actual things that have already happened.
Buy on the rumors, sell on the news.
Yeah, go figure. So the prediction basically for a lower fourth quarter stems from the continued decrease in the consumer PC market, something that is, for the most part, outside of Intel's control. So what do we think? Is this Intel should be popping the bubbly over their excellent third quarter, or should they be battening down the hatches and preparing for PC nightmares?
Well, one of the things they talked about in this is that they see signs of the market is bouncing back. This kind of reiterating what we talked about before. Talked about last week, in a conversation they had with All Things D, they talked about how they're seeing, positive trends, that the, corporate PC buying is back up, that things are that the PC market has finally, they think has seen the bottom and is turning around.
It just makes me laugh that we've finally reached the bottom is as positive as you can be. That's kind of sad.
But the interesting thing about that is if you look at a Bay Trail processor, technically any computer or any device running a Bay Trail processor by Intel's definition is a PC because it's an x86 based architecture.
Correct.
And so therefore Bay Trail, if it is as successful as they hope it will be, it'll increase adoption of Windows, 8.1, not Windows RT 8.1, Windows 8.1 devices, and it will increase their market share even more. So technically, the PC market will continue to grow, or will grow again.
Well, the PC market as Intel defines it, and NPD gets weird about how it counts it.
Well, yeah, because iPads are sometimes part of it, and sometimes not. And
my Surface calls itself a PC.
Yes, your Surface is somewhat delusional.
it has an identity crisis.
It always makes me laugh when it tells me I need to update my PC. So, where's my PC?
I think, I threw this story in there mostly so, it's kind of further evidence that there is some strength in the PC market. I think Intel's done some smart moves. Again, it all comes down to, is Bay Trail as good as they say it is?
Well, and the interesting comment out of the earnings call was that Krasnich, is that how you say his name? Said he expected $99 tablets, $299 Haswell laptops, and $349 2-in-1 hybrid tablets. Now, if that's not priced to move, I don't know what is.
Yeah, but look.
I mean, granted, okay,
that just
it's all
seems
crap.
Weird
it's all
coming
crap.
from him because he's not the... Anyway.
Well,
he knows what his processors cost.
he knows what his processors
Right.
cost,
and he knows how much power.
and a lot of times then he knows what the motherboards cost, and then RAM's cheap. I think
RAM costs nothing,
RAM costs almost nothing at this point in history.
as does memory.
So I think he can reasonably state that. But even if it's double that on the low end, right? Even if it's $200 for a tablet, that's still
Look,
decent
I'd do a
price.
7-inch Windows 8.1 Bay Trail tablet.
For a couple $100, sure.
$250.
Heck yes. So I think there's hope in this. But something that wasn't earning as it should be was Google TV, but it will never be the same again.
Yeah, apparently Google had a branding problem.
Really?
Once exciting and adventurous and creatively named, well, maybe not creative, Google TV is not having the market penetration that Google might have hoped for. Interestingly, Google is choosing to perpetuate the platform just under a new name, the catchy and creative Android TV.
Ugh.
That's right. Google has remained steadfast in their support of this, rather sad platform. That included Sundar Pichai saying, quote,
Pitch it to me, Sundar.
Google TV is moving forward in a big way, end quote. That was immediately following the announcement of the $35 Chromecast back in July, which, let's see, it was not running Google TV.
No, it's running something based off Chrome, not off Android.
Yeah, which is weird. So Google's marketing strategy is just all over the place. For those of you that don't remember, Google TV is this thing that Google came up with like 2 years ago that was supposed to like intercept the cable signal and make it really easy so you could say, oh, I want to search for sports, and you could search for sports, and it would include Netflix and
Hulu.
basically have Netflix and Hulu, and have an Omni search box, and it could use the web and do all of these things that we would want it to do. And then Hulu kind of gave it the middle finger, and everyone else, Fox,
It was 3
everyone else-
years ago.
Was it 3 years ago?
Yeah. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, immediately after it came out.
And then all the cable companies and all the content providers just sort of went tack with you, because it would like aggregate like, oh, it's not showing right now, but you can go to abc.com and see it, and even though it was just a browser, it just died.
They did not want that. So basically, the gist of it is it's really never gotten the penetration it should have. So Sydney, does it make sense for Google to attempt to rebrand this frankly failed platform that is Google TV? Or do they need a TV interface and strategy overhaul that requires more than what a new name can give?
Don't think the name is the problem. This is one of those, a rose by any other name except not a rose.
Stinky.
This is a pile of garbage by any other name is still a smelly pile of garbage. I don't think changing the name is going to help. I mean, I have zero experience with Google TV, so I can't speak to its usability, but it sounds like it's just not an effective platform. So just calling it something different is not going to make people any more likely to want to use it. You know, I feel like, yeah, putting the Android name on it doesn't change anything.
Well, they say they're going to have new announcements about the products at CES.
Can we talk about Android fragmentation?
Well, yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
By the way, the Galaxy S4 just now got Jelly Bean this week, and
What
just
about
now got.
About the S3.
I don't know. I don't really follow this.
Do they give me the things? All of the things?
I don't think so, because it's only the S4s internationally.
true.
The S4s have to wait a couple more weeks, and I think by the end of the month we're going to see real news on KitKat. So that's my thoughts on Android fragmentation. Hey Jimmy, what OS are you running?
I don't want to talk about it.
Hey Jimmy, what OS are you running?
I'm looking it up. I actually don't know the answer to that question.
My bet is
Android 4.1.2.
4.1.2. What's the most recent version of Android out on the market right now?
You can go to hell.
Jimmy, please continue with this. You brought up Android fragmentation. You walked into this.
4.3. Look, okay, I'm just going Nexus, okay? Just leave me alone.
So you're saying you are currently on
Living
what
in the
was
hell
a flagship
that is-
phone
No, let's
12
go
months
back.
ago.
I'm living in the hell that is Android, okay? Let's just get to the root of the problem.
But I really want to draw out some facts here. So you bought a flagship product. What? 12? Let's call it 12 months ago. It wasn't actually 12 months
Because
ago.
Samsung hates their
No,
users.
but let's call it 12 months ago. It was not running the most recent version of Android for that time when you bought it as a flagship product.
No. 4.1.2 was the most recent OS when I got this phone.
It has then other OSs have.
I'm also not telling you that that's not what it had when I got it, but
My point is, 4.3 is the latest version of Android. It has been out for a while. They're talking about 4.4, and you still don't have 4.3 on a less than year old product. Whereas when Sydney's iOS device, the iPhone 4, which launched in 2010? 2010. I was still teaching. It got iOS 7 day and date with everything else. That's the problem. And that is why Android is a crap user experience.
you, sir, can go to hell.
So really what they're doing is they're trying
have
to
S
more
voice.
accurately name Google TV. Since it doesn't work, they're putting the Android name on it because Android doesn't work.
Well, Android powers it anyways,
It all
yeah.
makes sense now.
It all makes sense now. So in other news of changes...
No. I
you
got one
wanna-
more thing on Google TV. One more thing
Okay.
on Google TV. Okay. Have you actually used Google TV, Trey?
No!
Okay, I have actually used Google TV. Google TV itself is not a fundamentally broken system.
It doesn't have the... It doesn't matter. It doesn't have the content.
Yeah, the problem is it doesn't do what it originally set out to do. So really, I think that Google should just scrap this whole Google TV thing and completely redo it through kind of the interface that the Chromecast is using. Kind of same idea. More Nexus Q, less Google TV.
And maybe that's what they're doing with the rebranding. We don't know. They have nothing new to announce except a new name. And so it may be that at CES we see a total reboot of this product.
But yes, Google TV itself is not a terrible user experience. It just doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Sure. In other news, Windows 8 has evolved into Windows 8.1. Sorry, Pokemon X and Y came out this week.
So, surprise, Windows 8.1 is here. Well, at least that's what I got this morning. It was like, oh, it's a Windows 8.1 day.
We weren't expecting it until tomorrow.
That's right. Microsoft's major update to its most recent operating system has arrived. Features that have been added include improved search, the ability to boot directly into the desktop, and something called a start button.
They're not calling it that, though.
It's yes, but it looks like a start button, and it's conveniently in the start button place, and it conveniently takes you into the Metro interface, the new Windows 8 user interface.
Modern UI.
Modern UI.
Modern UI. So Trey,
Yeah.
I know that you're in this purgatory that is Windows installed that I am. I've been trying to download this thing for what time is it? About
1 a.m.
4.5 hours.
Okay.
And I'm at 38%.
My
internet's very fast.
I've been at it for probably 3 hours before we started recording, and it was less than 50% when we started.
I have mine's downloaded.
Sydney is the only one of us who has 8.1 functional right now.
I have 8.1 RT.
On the RT.
I was going to make a really snide comment about how, no one else is updating RT, so...
That's probably true. Her and Mary Jo Foley.
But Trey, I know you're having these same kind of download quirky problems, so we could just talk about what it's supposed to be.
Windows 3.
And do you think it's the 3.1 to Windows 3, or do you think it's like Vista? What do we think?
I think to a certain extent it's like 7 to Vista to 7. It's tweaking it. So yeah, sure. 3 to 3.1. It's the one you actually want. It adds, Sydney's been playing around it. She can talk more to it, but it adds the ability to have kind of multiple ways to split screen things, which rather than
should have always been there.
Yes, thank you. There's nothing in this operating system that shouldn't have always been there. Also, the start button never left. It was just a faded out thing in the corner, and now it's a button again. Come on.
Okay, so on launch day for Windows 8 and the Surface, I went into a Microsoft store. I of course knew about Windows 8, and the woman was walking me through this thing. She says, yes, you can snap it on this side, you can snap it on this side. And I put my finger on it, and I tried to go to the middle, and it snapped to one side or the other. And I looked at her, and I said, are you telling me this thing will not let me split screen in the middle?
Nope.
I said, no, sir. Why would you want to do that?
Wow.
Did I just walk into an Apple store? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
people?
no, you did. Let's keep in mind,
Well,
no Apple tablet can do any form of split screen.
Now you can split the screen however you want. I was having a lot of fun. You can just slide back and forth and
you can do up to 4 different
anywhere
split
you
screens on a 27-inch monitor. So what do you think of it, Sydney? You're the only one who's...
we haven't had any hands-on time.
Well, let's see. I only played with this for 20 minutes maybe before the show started. So the screen splitting makes me very happy. I was sitting there, really excitedly moving the screen split back and forth for quite some time. Some new apps that, loaded themselves into my modern UI interface. I personally don't care about booting to the desktop because, again, I'm using this on Surface RT, so the modern UI is just a more sensible place for me to be anyway. But like I said, it added a couple new apps. There's something called Reading List, which basically allows you to... I've never used Google Reader, but it seems like it's the same type of idea from what little I know about Google Reader. That you can, if you're online, you can pull articles and basically save them for later to read and keep them in this app.
It's like Instapaper? Is that one of the ones?
Yeah.
It's got a new health and fitness app that they added in that has food tracking, exercise tracking, various exercise routines. It's got recipes, which is good because the Epicurious app is terrible and I hate it.
Epicurious has a website.
I love the website, and that's the thing. I love the website, but this is going to turn into a rant. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
The Epicurious app at least on RT, again, does not sync with your account on the website, and that just makes me furious because the Epicurious app on my iPhone syncs with my account on the website. So I can go on the website and put a recipe in my recipe box, and I can pull it up on my phone at the grocery store. I can get my shopping list, and I'm good to go. But if I want to use a recipe on the Surface, I have to search for it again because I can't sync it with my recipe box that I already have established on the internet. So why would I ever want to use it? Grr.
Use the web.
So, new apps look good. Snapping, yay. But I don't know if this is an 8.1 problem or if this is just Surface and Google Docs don't love each other, but it took me seriously like an hour and a half to get my show notes put together today because everything kept freezing. Every time I would open a link in Google Docs, Internet Explorer, and this is again the Internet Explorer from the modern UI, not from the desktop.
Internet Explorer.
It would just freeze and not do any. Like I know, and a lot of people complained about lag with Explorer, originally on the Surface, and it's not something that I really experienced. But good gracious, it was driving me crazy tonight. So I'm hoping that was just a strange hiccup and not the new reality of 8.1. But it is yet to be seen.
Skydive.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, Windows 8.1 adds kind of a few other kind of tweaks. You can now set the background of your modern UI screen to be the same background as your desktop, so it feels like a slightly more integrated experience.
Oh yeah, they changed my background.
Well, it's also it's supposed to add like stability fixes. It's supposed to be a more stable operating system and have less of the hiccups and weirdness of
and yet I'm
Windows 8.
experiencing more hiccups and weirdness.
Well, I wonder if this is also an issue of this. It still being two versions of IE. So there are two completely separate versions of Internet Explorer baked into Windows 8. It is the desktop one and the modern UI one,
and
so,
one works and one doesn't. You
well,
can never be
one's
sure which one's which.
One's full featured and one isn't. And one's stripped down. So I want to know. I think you should probably start trying to run Google Docs in the desktop version of IE and see if that makes the difference. Because it's a weird separation.
Well, and I know video used to be really, really bad when you try
Flash.
to do it in like you try to watch a YouTube video and it would just like crash.
Yeah.
If you're trying to watch it in the modern UI Windows or Internet Explorer 10, but if you put it in the desktop, it worked great.
Yeah. So Amazon and HTC may be looking for some evolution of their own with a new product line.
Indeed. So in tonight's very serious case of some say, Amazon might be doing something maybe.
Oh, great.
This is pretty
Possibly.
much. So the Financial Times cited the ever-reliable source of information, a source, which says that Amazon and HTC are teaming up on a smartphone. A source goes on to say that at least one device that the companies are working on is pretty far along in its development, and we'll see it sometime next year, which unfortunately is not soon enough to make my prediction of phone this year to come true, alas. However, we have a source that is claiming that said mystery device may not actually be released, which of course makes one wonder if Amazon fails to release a product they haven't announced. Does anybody care?
It's like the iWatch and the Apple TV.
The Apple TV is actually, it's been delayed again, by the way,
in
the Apple
forest
TV.
And, oh, goodness. But in all seriousness, what do we think are the chances that we're going to be seeing an Amazon phone anytime soon, and do we think that a phone would be a good move for Amazon?
I mean, clearly it's not going to be soon. Be in the next 12 months, if at all.
It'll probably be, if they're going to launch one, I suspect that they'll launch it next year when they launch the new Kindles.
Sure. Or, no, they tend to do that in the fall. This might give them a spring announcement to kind of have a split.
No, that's true. That
to
could be
not
something.
have it all packed into one thing. I don't ever understand the standalone Amazon products. I don't understand how that fits into Amazon's business.
They make money off of them, though. So presumably they keep going. So they make money.
I don't know. They
The
don't
idea
ever
is they're
really
giving you a cheap hardware in order to lock you into their software environment.
Well, they're not even locking you in their software environment. They're just locking you into their content.
Well, that's
I can
what I
watch their content anywhere else. The idea of a phone That feels too far afield from what Amazon's doing. A tablet, okay, that's a purely consumption device. But are you really going to want to watch Amazon Video on your phone?
Amazon Music, though.
Yeah, I guess.
And I mean, it has everything else. As long as you have Facebook, Amazon Music, Kindle app, you're good. What else do you need?
I don't know.
Goodreads.
What's next?
A good web browser.
Goodreads, Audible.
Which they all. I get that there's a suite of services that Amazon offers, but I just don't see how having a phone really connects enough in with that.
The other thing is, if someone's going to make it, it's going to be HTC because they're the whore of the phone industry.
Well, they make everyone's dumb side projects.
Google goes, "Oh, we want to make a phone," and HTC says, "All right, Nexus 1, let's do it."
And then
Facebook says, "Hey, we want to make a phone.
You get the
HTC first."
And there was one before that.
There's a theme here. It's going to be the HTC
Primo.
Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, which works because Amazon.
Well, there's already been a
Kindle
Nexus.
Prime.
There's already been a Nexus Prime. You need something else.
No, it wasn't. It was the next. It was the Galaxy Nexus instead of Nexus Prime.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
That was the guess. It was going to be Nexus Prime.
Yeah, it was a much better name than what it actually was. I like my name for it better. I don't understand these Amazon products. I never have. I tend to not like them when they come out. I begrudgingly accept their existence in the market. I just don't see what they could possibly do with a phone that is in any way interesting.
Dear Kindle Fire, Trey tolerates your presence.
You may go.
So I just don't get it.
I think they're gonna do it because why not? Look, you can't do worse than the HTC first.
It
makes more sense than a Facebook phone because unlike Facebook, Amazon has figured out how to monetize a device.
That's true. Someone else who's possibly figured out how to monetize devices is this week's gadget.
So in our seemingly never-ending coverage of wearable tech, including fitness trackers and smartwatches and other random junk you put on your wrist.
Final frontier.
That was weird. Okay, keep going.
Okay. Nike has updated their Fuel Band tracker, everyone's favorite. The new device, creatively called the Fuel Band SE, adds some new features, among which are increased water resistance, Bluetooth 4.0, Nike Swoosh, which is very important, and colors.
Yay.
It's available in, they had creative names for them, but it was lime and like a magenta color.
Ooh.
Yeah, very strange. And it's on the inside of the band with like a little bit of accent showing on the sides. Anyways.
I kind of like the lime one.
The lime one is not horrible. The magenta is...
Magenta's pretty bad. The red isn't bad.
All right.
So,
I'm risking trying to open this.
lots of colors. Please don't crash Google Docs. Also, apparently to keep up with their competitors, the Fitbit Force and the Jawbone Up, the Fuel Band has added sleep tracking, and a great feature that everyone uses.
Yeah, but I can't see myself looking at this device. I can't see myself wanting to wear this when I sleep.
That is a really strange
This
place
this
to put
does
the
not
color.
seem like a device that you would wear all the time. This is my gripe with the Fuel Band in general. It's also one size fits all, which is just stupid.
Which is one size fits none.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a hard plastic one size fits all, so that's dumb. But anyway, so it's available for pre-order now and becomes available on November 6th for $149. So it's not really competing with their $129 Force and Jawbone Up competitors. The question is, do we need more Nike fuel in our lives?
Well, I go back to my problem with all of these products. Where's the heart rate monitoring? Why is Basis the only one that does this?
You know what? You gripe about this every time these come up. It's just a pedometer, okay?
No, but
your problem is that they take the pedometer numbers and they extrapolate it to calories.
My issue is how they market it. If they market it as a pedometer with some fancy tracking features, that's one thing. When you start getting your fuel points and starts to estimate your calories and just
No. To be clear, the Nike Fuel doesn't estimate calories; it just gives you fuel, and then gamifies it.
What is fuel?
Fuel is a meaningless metric that they made up. Okay,
What is?
I hate
for a
fuel.
walk and gain Pirchen fuel.
Exactly. That is exactly what it is. Fuel is the stupidest metric I've ever heard of for measuring fitness.
I like.
I need to know if my fuel is low in my car, okay? Not on my wrist.
Now, I like. I've looked at Nike. I've been looking at getting one of these for a long time. Nike tends to be more full featured. Nike also offers one with not this one, but offers one with GPS built in, which starts to become more meaningful.
But you can really only wear this on your wrist all the time if you are a professional athlete or a gym teacher.
Yeah. Or one of my public health or one of my public health colleagues.
It looks like athletic equipment. I realize it is athletic equipment, but if it's something they're trying to get you to wear all the time, then it can't look like athletic equipment.
Well, some people want and do wear that kind of athletic equipment look all the time. It's very popular.
I don't think the Burberry executive would approve.
No,
just saying.
Well, that's part of it's part of why Apple may be the hope in this sector.
Well, there's a really interesting article over at The Verge that kind of runs down all of the weird wrist things that are available. The Basis Band is not included in that rundown, but it's alluded to. They talk about it, but they don't specifically describe it. But the ones they talk about are, the Pebble, the Galaxy Gear, the Sony smartwatch, the Fitbit Force, this new Nike Fuel Band. And they're basically like, okay, so what are we looking for, really? The Galaxy Gear is like, the ultimate in it runs itself. It doesn't need a phone. It's got like a freaking Exynos processor in it. The Pebble is very simple, but adds to your phone, has, low power. And then you have these tracker things that are just like they have pedometer, they have accelerometers in them to measure your steps. And oh yeah, by the way, they can also like show you the time and set alarms.
Now they can.
Now they can. Yeah, the Fitbit, that's a feature. And so like it's really where's the happy medium in this wearable tech space? Because we've currently got the whole broad range of it, including there's apparently this LG phone that goes on your wrist.
Oh yeah, I remember that from back in the day.
Yeah. It's what is it? The LG, give me one sec, I can get it. It's the LG GD910.
That's a sexy
Sounds
name.
like a TV.
The watch phone. It looks like the Galaxy Gear.
Yeah,
minus a camera.
Same basic idea. I mean, right now, looking at those devices, the most compelling is if you take a Pebble and you put a pedometer in it.
Which is what Pebble's going to do in their next version.
Right. I mean, if you take the Pebble...
Make it thinner and lighter.
If you make it thinner, lighter, because it uses e-ink, so it has the battery life.
It actually just needs to be thinner. It doesn't actually need to be lighter. It's already light. It's plastic.
Right, it's plastic. It has e-ink rather than relying on LCD, so it's always showing the time, unlike the Fuel Band and unlike the Force. It doesn't have the battery life issues of the Samsung, while still basically doing all the stuff you actually want one of these smartwatches to do, except a pedometer. So if you want my ideal smartwatch, the one that might actually drag me into this space before Apple gets in here, it is a Pebble with fitness tracking. Because that's the device.
I need the battery life. That's my thing. None of these things have the battery life.
The Pebble's got the battery life.
The Pebble almost has the battery life. It does about 2 days. It does more than a day, which the Galaxy Gear does not.
Oh, they claim up to 5 days.
But realistically, it does 2 to 3. I actually interacted with someone at a conference for my other job, and he was wearing a Pebble, and until like I was looking for it, I didn't realize he was wearing a Pebble because it looks like a watch.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's probably the only one in this space currently that can blend in and replace a real watch. It actually not even replace, act like a real watch.
Act like a real watch with just that modicum of features you need. It doesn't go crazy like Samsung. It just gives you those little push notifications. It's a nice watch. It just needs that fitness tracking, and I think it's there. Presumably they can pack in a few more batteries, get that battery life up to more like 5 days. And I think you have as close as we're going to get for the time being, until possibly the big A jumps into the space of what this can be.
7 days is the number because that's what the Fitbit Flex is rated at. And so I charge it every Sunday morning.
Sure.
And I'm on a schedule. Every Sunday morning, I take the thing, I plug it in, and it's good to go. I don't have to worry about it except on Sunday mornings. And I get an alert on my phone that says, "Hey, your Flex battery is low," and 12 hours later, it dies. So I know that that's how long I have.
Sure.
So we're almost there, but we still need that iPod moment where someone comes in and just
Kills it.
makes a device that everyone needs.
And that may have to be on Johnny Ive to do it. But something else that will give us quite a moment is this week's Geeks Anonymous.
Without doubt, the worst episode ever.
I think we should call it your grave.
Kirch's unbelievable betrayal.
So, in case you haven't picked up on it, dear listeners, I'm going to go ahead and out myself as something of a Star Wars nerd. Yes, shocking, I know. I won't speak for my co-hosts.
Oh,
I'll
contraire.
let them speak for themselves. But it's for this reason that tonight's Geeks Anonymous makes me simultaneously very excited and very sad. So if you are a Star Wars fan like me, you'll be excited to know that you have an opportunity to get a look at 70 original props, models, costumes, and other exciting artifacts from everybody's favorite space epic. They're on display currently in an exhibit called Star Wars, where science meets imagination. And this exhibit includes things like a model of the Millennium Falcon that was used in Episode 4, Boba Fett's blaster from Episode 5, a Darth Vader costume from Episode 3. We've got a model of Yoda, a model of Chewbacca, all things that were actually used in the films, which is pretty awesome, pretty amazing. So you may be asking, what exactly is there to be sad about? From my perspective, this is very sad. The exhibit is currently on display at the Tech Museum of Innovation in San Jose, California, which is unfortunately the wrong coast for me.
Road trip.
Unlikely that I'm going to make it there.
Well, I don't know. I've got a tour schedule.
How long is it there?
This is the last stop on the tour.
This is the last stop.
It was probably closer to us sometime.
It wasn't.
We didn't even know.
It was in Houston a while back.
You got to be kidding me.
It hurts.
It was at Marshall Space Flight in Huntsville. This is interesting because they did something very much like this when I was a kid, or at least when I was younger. I can't remember what it was called, but it was another Star Wars tour of props.
Well, I'm sure it was for the exact same reason, to drum up interest because the new movies were coming out.
Yeah, it was between the release of the remastered ones and the release of Episode 1.
Which is exactly where we are. We have the DVD remastered
Blu-ray,
release, or the Blu-ray remastered release, thank you, and the Episode 7 through 9. We're right in that same spot, so this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I went... It was a big deal. I remember going to I guess it was just called Star Wars The Exhibition. I remember going to the National Air and Space when it was there, and it was a big deal for me to go see this thing and see the props. So I am kind of sad that I've missed this one. But if you are nearby, it is.
So Trey, it's only an 8-hour drive from Vegas, so.
That's true. It will still be ongoing. My issue is not necessarily the drive there, but that's a 16-hour total thing. That
drive there and then fly from there back to Atlanta.
Oh God.
We can do this.
Yes.
We'll keep you posted, listeners.
Yeah, we may be able to do this. Something that we can't quite do is this week's last call. So, remember Jurassic Park, where they take the blood out of the fossilized mosquitoes and then make dinosaurs? Mm-hmm. Well, a team at the U.S. National Museum of Natural History has found a female mosquito preserved in shale, not amber, but shale, with what they think is blood still contained within her abdomen. And this is like a 46-million-year-old mosquito.
This is why it's really good that the government is working now.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is extremely rare. It is an extremely rare thing to be preserved for 46 million years. However, the DNA contained within the blood will have long since degraded because DNA doesn't work like it works in Jurassic Park.
No.
So this is more...
Wow.
Michael Crichton is right.
So this is more scientifically interesting than likely leading to a living dinosaur-based theme park where raptors eventually eat us all anyways. Bummer, right? Right?
Can I say the hashtag that we put before this?
No, because I really don't want to have to edit that much.
Suffice to say that it was something very much profanity, but it went holy dinosaurs.
Holy bleeping bleeping dinosaurs.
It would be, I don't know. Obviously, based on Jurassic Park, it's a terrible idea because everything goes crazy and we can't control it. But it would be really interesting to actually see what dinosaurs actually looked like because as far as I can tell, paleontologists have pretty much made it up.
Well, they have to a
They're
certain
like,
extent.
made it
ooh,
up.
look, we've got these fun little spiky plates in the Stegosaurus. Whoa, let's put him on his back like a mohawk. That'll look
Right.
sweet. They have no idea where those things were.
Well, to a
Could
certain
have been on
extent,
his
Reference
stomach.
short history of nearly everything.
yeah, to a certain extent, they don't have any idea.
No.
Iguanodon.
Yeah, Iguanodon's a perfect example. It turns
Bill
out that
Brooks.
Triceratops
Awesome.
is just a transitional phase and isn't actually a dinosaur, and dinosaurs probably had feathers and bright colors, and so,
They also
Made it
show
up.
they'll also show the what is it the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex in the same
just-
exhibit, and they
Wait,
lived
is
like
it-
300 million years apart.
Yeah,
Just
not
realized
quite
that,
much, but
paleontologists and analysts must be related.
But
Oh,
They
we
get
need
paid to make
a-
stuff up.
same basic idea. Yeah.
See, we need Jurassic Park so we can have Jeff Goldblum go must go faster, must go faster.
And on that note, it's time to end. Thank you so much for
Must go
joining us
faster, must go faster.
for another episode of Dex Last Call. Ignore my co-host. If you have any feedback for the show or for Jimmy in particular, podcast at textlastcall.com.
I'll tell you where and how to get there.
Facebook.com/textlastcall, Pinterest.com/textlastcall, or at textlastcall on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs.
And there was much rejoicing. Yay, yay.
And we're clear.
Cat is about to headbutt the surface onto the floor.
It's Elliot, isn't it?